We want to welcome Juan Carlos Gutierrez, known as JC. He is the co-founder of Hightech, as well as Angeles Investors. He's also a managing director, head of solutions architecture and customer success for AWS. I would like to welcome him, and he will be talking today about Amazon's culture of innovation and the future of artificial intelligence. Join me in welcoming him to the stage.
Thank you so much. All right. So, how's everybody doing? Good? Excellent. Well, it's always a pleasure to be here in Silicon Valley, and especially in this museum. So, first time for me, actually. I was trying to come here many times in the past, and I'm super blessed to be here in the museum. What an icon in technology and in Silicon Valley. So, it's also great to see you all. And I'm going to be talking about oops, sorry about this. I think I did it wrong. One more. Sorry about that. All right. So I'm going to be talking about Amazon culture of innovation, which is related to people, why we innovate in Amazon, how we innovate in Amazon, and also about AI, the future of AI, and in particular generative AI, and how we see it in Amazon and in AWS. So when we talk about in Amazon about the innovation and the culture, everything starts with the mission of Amazon. Amazon has been a company since 1994 when it was founded by Jeff Bezos and became a success pretty quickly. And from the beginning, the culture has been the same. The mission has been the same. It was created with thinking about customers and the customer as the center of the decisions of everything that we do. And the mission is pretty simply to write. It is to be Earth's most customer-centric company in the world, on Earth. So very difficult to implement, okay? Very easy to write, to explain, very difficult to implement. And if you see in the mission, we don't talk about specific technology, so we're not talking about books or e-commerce, we're not talking about a specific geography or for when. So the power of the mission is that has been the same for many years, okay? And again, it starts with the customers. So having the customer as the center of everything that we do, and then working backwards from that. So what are our customers thinking in their next years in the business? What are the problems that they need to be solved? And what we do is working backwards from that and innovate in their behalf. So that's basically the approach. And since our stakeholder letter that Jeff Bezos put out every year since Amazon was created and became public, we have a letter at the end of the year for the stakeholders. And in each one of these letters, there are messages that Jeff Bezos, now Andy Jassy, they write and communicate to the stakeholders. And in the letter of 2016, he reminded us internally in Amazon that our customers, even though they tell you that they could be happy, that the customers, are happy with us, we need to think that they are not happy, that they are always dissatisfied. And when you think about that they are not satisfied, you have this hunger to make sure that they receive the better prices, the better services, the better products, because they are a click away to move to another provider. So you see that in Amazon.com from the beginning, in the website. You see that in AWS. You see that in Amazon Prime. You see that in Amazon Music. So in every business, a customer is a click away to change to another provider if they perceive there is a better service. So when you internally assume that in the company, there you are proactively thinking how I can satisfy more this customer. What else can I do? Can I optimize the technical infrastructure? Maybe they are paying too much for our services. And we really behave in that way. We're always thinking about optimization for the customer, having better services, better products. So that's part of this culture of innovation that over the years has allowed Amazon, that started from selling books in Seattle, right? The first internet company selling books online to everything that we today have in our business. And now you can buy whatever product in Amazon.com, right? From books, we went to CDs, then we went to DVDs, then we, so on, many products. But now we are in, as I said, in music, like Amazon Music. We have content for, movies and production with Amazon Prime, Amazon Studios, AWS, which is it was the first cloud provider in the market, and years ahead of because we were the first. But also we are in the devices market with Fire TVs, with the Dot devices, the ones that you use for Alexa. So different businesses, different markets, and we globally. And why we do that? Because the mission, as I said, is listening to the customers. And when you listen to the customers and then you receive, can I have something better to what I had to do? We come back and innovate. So that's basically what we had been doing for many years in Amazon. But a simple way that we have in our culture to explain how this is a continuous flywheel of innovation, we call it the customer flywheel, is that when you start with the customer, as I was saying, in the customer experience as the beginning, how this customer can be more satisfied, be happier with us. You start in that way. And I'm going to use the first representation that was in Amazon.com in the website. If a customer is happy, I hope everybody buys in Amazon.com. I do that a lot, more than what I want to be honest. But every time that I go, the traffic for me increases. So I buy more. Now I get the product faster. Now, I can return it faster. So now I have, just as an anecdote, I have now Saturday returns days. So I accumulate what I buy. When I don't want it, I go Saturdays and I go to UPS and I return everything that I bought over the week. Well, my wife bought or my kids bought, not only me. But that return Saturday has become super simple for me. Now, faster. I use the app. I don't have to print the labels anymore. I go to UPS with the QR code and voila, return, and I get the money at that moment. So faster. Why is that? Because the traffic is making the interactions faster. And what happened with Amazon.com is that you get more sellers. When they see that, okay, there is a market, let me put more products there, you get more sellers. And then improve my selection. So that's the core of Amazon, the customer wheel. You can apply that to Prime Video. Same thing. You have more movies, more traffic, more selection. Amazon Music, more music. AWS, you have more services, traffic, you get more faster. What Amazon does very differently is the part that is outside. The benefit of that increase lowers the infrastructure costs, lowers the logistics, lowers the compute infrastructure, and then Amazon decides to pay that back to the customers. So instead of getting that and distributing that better by the stockholders or buying another company, of course there are finance implications there, but the main decision is let me get that back to the customer, so the customer can get a cheaper price, maybe more services, and get the improvement of this wheel. So that's the core of how Amazon behaves. But now, how we innovate. We have 4 pillars in Amazon. The first one is the culture. Very strong. We hire based on that culture. We promote people based on that culture, and we can have a big conversation about the culture, but that's one of the components of the innovation. The second one that I'm going to be talking is mechanisms, which is a way in Amazon to talk about processes, okay, and how we scale globally with the mechanisms. The technology architecture has been a key component of Amazon innovation. So how we change from monolithic approaches to microservices and what are the implications there. And finally, people, how we organize our teams, how they behave, what tools do we give to the people. So that organization is super key. So let me talk about culture. Culture starts with what we call in Amazon, you have the mission that I share, then we have the leadership principles. 16 leadership principles, we call it LPs. The leadership principles are a way for Amazonians to behave. So that's basically what you expect an Amazonian to think, to act day by day. And we hire Amazonians based on these principles. As I said, we develop, we promote. One of the leadership principles there is hire and develop the best. It's one of the 16. So we really invest time hiring the best resources that we can, but also we develop the people with training, continuously training, promotions, etc. If you see in the 16, some of them could be, they create some friction sometimes. Why? Because they are a way that represents a decision in one moment of time. So, for example, and I'm going to be talking more in detail about that, but one of them is think big. So when we think big in Amazon, we're thinking long term. You know, this customer will go globally, so let's think big about what are we going to do with them. Let's think big about my organization. It's going to be triple in the next, 2 years. What do we do? That's thinking big, right? And planning around that. But on the other hand, we need to go fast, which is bias for action. There is a friction there. Do I think big and then, make all the numbers, the planning, the budget, or do I go fast? Depends. So that's the culture that in some situations we have to go fast. In others, we need to think big, like in the planning process. Of course, in planning process, we need to make sure that we are thinking big. When we go about innovation, which is what we are going to be talking today, there are 2 leadership principles that really are the ones that are driving innovation in Amazon. Of course, I talk about customer obsession. Customer is the center of everything that we do. But there is one LP that is called invent and simplify. Because it's an LP, a leadership principle, that means that everybody in Amazon has to invent and simplify. It's not the, invent and simplify department, or the R&D, the research and development, or this group, only the managers, they are the ones that invent. Invent and simplify is a call for everybody. Could be in HR, could be in finance, could be in sales. So everybody has to think and invent and simplify and improve what we're doing. So if you read it, I allowed you to take some seconds to read it, but it is expected for every leader. And by the way, everybody in Amazon is a leader. We call everybody in Amazon a leader. That's why there are leadership principles for all the employees. So, but the key point of invent and simplify is that we ask people to think long term also and to be misunderstood. It is okay that when you propose something new, nobody get it. And that's what happened with Amazon when we went with the Kindle. So why Amazon is offering a device that is going to cannibalize the books? So are you crazy? So offering this device where the books are, cheaper. By the way, the device was ugly. So why you do that? Because we are willing to be misunderstood over time. So when we think big, there is a demand of customers saying, I want to read every book right now in every language and cheaper than the physical books. That's what the Kindle offered to the market. And over time got better. Now we have, devices that you can read in the beach. Now you can use the Kindle also to write. So has been, a business that has been improving over time. The other one that is pretty famous is AWS. So Amazon Web Services was totally misunderstood. There was this big famous that I forgot to include it here, but this big famous picture of Jeff Bezos from Wall Street saying, what is this guy thinking? Do you know about technology? You only know about retail and e-commerce. So, and well, I'm glad that it was proven that Wall Street was, not right, because we were basically thinking long term. We found there was a need in Amazon about this cloud compute, cheaper, having infrastructure in minutes, in seconds, versus shipping hardware, with everything that was related at that time. So today, AWS, what offers? First, offers more than 200 services from basic compute and storage to machine learning. We're going to be talking a little bit more about that. AI, personalization services, etc. Millions of customers that are using AWS. And a key component, remember the flywheel? We reduce prices over time. We don't increase it, we reduce prices. So when we have a better compute, like Graviton, for example, which is a much better infrastructure for compute, prices are lower. We pass that to the customers. So when we have better performance in databases, like Aurora, we pass that to the customers. So that's part of the culture that we have. A second LP is move fast, bias for action. So what bias for action calls us is that speed matters. So if you have a great idea, test it. Get data. It's okay to fail, but get data fast, fail fast. Everybody in Amazon is being called to do that. And that bias for action, like, hey, don't wait for too many approvals. Don't wait for all the data. 70% of the data is okay, and 30%, you don't need it. Take the risk. It's better that you have an action and move fast. So what the key part in Amazon is that there are decisions that require more, investigation, more details, more data, like opening a new data center. So you don't want to go fast and then, oops, we forgot taxes, right? So that will kill the business. But hiding somebody that maybe you don't know if it is going to be appropriate for this role, but it's Amazonian, hide it, and maybe the person can be doing something else. So we call that in Amazon, is this a decision that is a one-way door or a two-way door? How it works. One-way door decisions are the ones that you go to the next room and you cannot come back, at least easily. Maybe you can blow up the door, right? But there is not an easy way to come back. Two-way doors are the ones that you go, didn't work, you return. So going back to the same point where you make the decision, it is easier. So how that works, maybe you want to experiment with a new role. Hey, I want to try, for example, I'm in the technology sales organization. Let's say that we need somebody that knows an industry in Chile. We want to invest in mining. So we're going to hire somebody that is going to be an expert in mining. We hide it, test, do we have opportunities? Didn't work? Okay, let's do something else. So there was not a big impact, right? Or let's test a segmentation. So we're gonna go with this new segment of market. We test it, we try, didn't work, or work, let's expand it, which is the good news. Work, now let's move this globally, okay? Everybody's called to do that. That's the important thing. We are not thinking about, this has to be top down. This decision has to be made by my boss or my boss. No, I can make those decisions because they are two-way doors decisions. So very important in the innovation because I can innovate daily with things like a new report, in the CRM in Salesforce, just giving you real cases. I can add a tag and say, well, I want to have all this information in Salesforce to make better decisions. How many customers are there asking for generative AI? Boom, let's create this. And we got the data quickly. So that's the innovation. Let me go to mechanisms. What are mechanisms? Mechanisms are processes. It's another way of calling it, but we call it smart processes in Amazon that has an output that is based on a business need, has an input, but internally there is a way that has a tool, has an adoption, and an inspection, standard, okay? An example of a mechanism in Amazon is hiring. We hire people the same way globally. And so how we hire in Amazon, we have the hiring manager, we have a bar raiser that equalizes the interview process, we ask questions based on the leadership principles, global process. What is the benefit of that in Amazon? Scaling. So that's the benefit of the mechanisms. In innovation, we have a mechanism. So everybody in Amazon innovates using the same mechanism. We call it the working backwards mechanism. Remember the working backwards from our customers? Well, there is a mechanism that is called working backwards. And how it starts? With the customers, we ask questions. What is the cost? What is our customer? What will be the benefit from the customer? And then we create a press release, which is a one-pager, that talks about this product or this service in the future. Okay, let's say I'm going to create a new service, generative AI for financial services industry. It's going to be a solution. Wow, okay, great. What this product is going to be doing? I don't know. Let's do a press release. So the press release will help me to say, this product in 2 years will be doing X, Y, and Z. And based on that press release, I work backwards. I create a frequent answer and question document also, how much it costs. It is available in Spanish, whatever the questions are. And then visuals, okay? So it starts again with the customers, but very specific. Who's going to be using this? What is the customer? What are the benefits? Is a woman? Is somebody from India? Has a family? So you ask those questions. And without going into much detail, we have these 5 questions that are the ones that define the core of the PRFAQ. And then summarizing the PRFAQ is that one page, the questions, frequent answers and questions, and the visuals, which is like, everybody in Silicon Valley familiar with design thinking, so similar, but more the way of doing the visuals is, in our case, it's related to prototyping. So how can I do this and a prototype pretty quickly? So this mechanism, my point here is, it is the same in all Amazon for anything that is new. AWS was created with a PRFAQ from Andy Jassy, all AWS. A new service that I want to launch to the market, like maybe in Latin America, I want to do, as I was saying, generative AI for oil and gas. I can create a PRFAQ, define it, launch it to the market. And I want to create a new organization. Same thing, it doesn't have to be product. My team is going to be organized in a different way. We're going to have a central team, for example, that serves all Latin America instead of by countries. I create a PRFAQ, questions, it gets reviewed. I have some visuals of how it will work, and then it is implemented. I always like to show that these decisions are done in documents, because in Amazon we use PowerPoints like today to communicate with external audiences. But if you notice, I'm driving the conversation, right? I'm the one that is saying, what is next, my pitch. So I'm the one controlling what we are talking today. When you want to innovate, you want everybody in the same page and deciding, is this really a good product? You want feedback. So in Amazon, we found that the best way to do that is with documentation, with writing documentation. Today, we do more digital than use the handwriting with the red pens. But it really represents how we share ideas in Amazon, like the PRFAQ. We share that, we ask for feedback, and then we improve. It's a process that is a very collaborative process. It is also very inclusive, because when you do, I have found out that when you do a narrative, who wrote it, what color was the person that wrote it, it's different. What is the accent of the person that wrote it? You don't know. There is a document there. When you do pitches, there are some biases there, right? So very, very powerful mechanism in Amazon. The third one is the technology that allows innovation quickly. And we did a big shift in early 2000s, when we went from monolithic applications. The origin of Amazon was based on that. Big solution, big databases, and we shift to microservices. And when we did that, it increased, in this graph there represents the 100,000s of APIs and microservices calls that we have in Amazon. And that's a subset of a picture. But we have API calls from, let me be more visual in that. So if you go to the Amazon website, every component of the Amazon website is a microservice. So you can have, the representation of the image of the product, the price, the shopping cart. When you separate all that, what the success of Amazon was that you can take that away and get a better version. So only the shopping cart, only the evaluation, only the picture, versus a monolithic application that it takes time to improve, to get a new version, another language, you go to another country, oof, super heavy. When you have microservices, you get agility. You get fast development, fast decisions. So increase speed, agility, and increase innovation. Now, every business in Amazon, it works the same way. So everything has been decoupled. We call it decoupled, so to make decisions faster. It lowers the cost because you can, it's less infrastructure consuming. That's why, AWS has been a great success on that. And creates a big collaboration, rapid collaboration between all the businesses and the technology teams, okay? Andy Jassy, who was the CEO of AWS, that is now the CEO of Amazon, he says also that the faster, paraphrasing is that you should start with this quickly. Because if you don't start with this quickly, there is no compression algorithm to represent experience. So the more experience that you are in this, it becomes an advantage for you. So that's what has happened in Amazon, that all that experience with microservices and with the technology now is paying back a lot. Let me go to the organization part, which is the part that I like the most. Technology is great. We love technology. As David was saying earlier, in my brand, personal brand, technology is part of who I am. But I do think that the big shift in innovation is about people. So it's really the ones that innovate. And how we organize in Amazon the teams, how we hire the teams, what tools do we have them, it is a big difference in our experience. So in Amazon, we hire builders. That's the first thing. Everybody's a builder. What is a builder in Amazon? Somebody that is gonna really do things, not order, somebody else will do it, my assistant, I don't have my hands steady. Everybody in Amazon has hands steady and is a builder. Could be from using Excel, reporting, creating a new document, writing. My Amazonian friends, sorry that I forgot to introduce them, Carlos Ordóñez and Natalie Hill from Amazon. They will add to me that everybody writes a document. So, for example, I have to write my own documents. Everybody, you have to be a builder. So that's the first thing. Second thing is how we organize the teams. And I don't know if you have heard about this analogy in Amazon, but we call it the two pizza teams. So what is a two pizza team? It's basically a team between 8, 10, 12. So it's not fully defined, but it's a team that is fed by two pizzas. Okay. So you can have the one that eats one pizza and then the rest share the other pizza. But you get the idea. It's not fixed. So 8 to 12 people. But the point is that it's an autonomous team. It's a team that behaves quickly, agile, has different representation. It's not the same team. That's why we don't have the pizza that they look alike. So it is a diverse team, okay? But it has been empowered to make decisions. So for example, if you need, let's say, I was putting real examples, you need to test a new solution, real cases, Amazon Connect, which is a solution for call centers that we have globally. We want to test Amazon Connect in a market like in Brazil. We don't know if it is going to work, the telecommunications. So let's create a two pizza team. The two pizza team works, develops the project, and then it goes back. Or it stays and grows. So the two pizza team, when it works, then you scale the team, and then you have more two pizza teams. And those two pizza teams, growth, and then we have single threader leaders globally that will do something like I'm the single threader leader for LATAM of the architects, but I have two pizza teams of architects and customer success teams all over Latin America. They are independent. Like the telco team, for example, is an independent team in Latin America that is only working with the telecommunications customers. Okay, so the other thing about the teams, builders, how they get organized, is we motivate the people to fail, as I was saying. It is okay to fail. Don't be afraid of failing. Actually, we believe that invention and failure are twins. And this is a phrase from Jeff Bezos. They are twins. So just like you have the good twin, that is the innovation, you have the one that is the failure. And the biggest the failures over time will means that bigger will be the innovations in the future. So what examples we have and what we have learned in Amazon? Not only once, but twice, we failed with the auctions platforms in Amazon. So we released late 90s, early 2000s. Remember the auction market, we have Amazon auctions. That didn't go well. Then we came with another concept that is the Z shops physically. Didn't work well. Finally, we learned and we create the marketplaces. So what is the marketplace in Amazon? Just like you buy in Amazon products that come from Amazon, there are marketplaces that are from third parties. Today, 50% of the business of Amazon is from marketplaces. 50%. So, but it required learning, so we didn't stop with the failures. The other one, I don't know if you saw or you bought Fire Phone. Did you hear about the Fire Phones? Okay, so total disaster, right? The Fire Phone. So, but Jeff Bezos, Amazon, we believe that smartphones were, the future, as they are, but we wanted to launch our own smartphone. We listened to customers, same process, customer backwards, yes, PRFIQ, great, we have a product, we launched it. We didn't know about the supply chain, repairs, the pricing was incorrect. So the product was great, everything else was a failure. So what did we learn with that? I think that we shut it down in a month. So quickly, we didn't wait too much to shut it down. Quickly, we shut it down. But the developers that did a lot of the AI that was in the Fire Phone, that was a phone that was personalized, we reallocated, and they came with the idea of Alexa. So the learning here is that redeploying that resources that are innovative, then they came with a great success, which is the Alexa. So I'm going to talk now a little bit more. What did we learn with Alexa, with AI, and what is generative AI now? How are we with timing? So generative AI and AI in general. So let me start with some, I'm going to be more technical a little bit, sorry. I hope it's okay. But let's start with concepts and what is generative AI and where does it fit. The first thing is that in the concept of artificial intelligence, AI in general, which has been a technology or let's say something available since the 1950s when it was created. AI has been a concept since the 1950s. And basically it's techniques of compute that are mimicking how humans react and think. Which computing, if you will, tries to do the same, but AI goes to really mimicking thinking, not only calculations. That was the origin, actually in 2,000 years of computing, as it is said here in the museum. But AI is from the 1950s because the type of statistics, the models were different. Okay, so how we make decisions. Sometimes, as I was saying, in innovation, we can make decisions without all the data. right? Because we take risk. So AI started with that, okay? And going to Amazon, from the beginning in Amazon, in the Amazon.com, in the platform, we have AI for books recommendations. It's a personal story. I didn't know that I was going to join Amazon. I've been with Amazon 3 years and 4 months. I was in the 90s working at Oracle in Puerto Rico, and I opened my Amazon account in 1997. So I'm an Amazon customer since 1997. And why I opened that account in 1997? Because in Puerto Rico, the fastest way to get a new book was with Amazon, shipped by the US Postal Service, and I got it in a week. Versus going to a library and they will tell you, we don't have that book. We're gonna order it, it's gonna be here in a month, right? So when I opened that account and I started to use Amazon, I started to see, maybe you remember those days, but hey, if you read this book, you should be reading this other book. People that read this book like also this book. So the basic of personalization with a primitive AI was there in Amazon from the beginning. Personalizing data, making decisions for advertising, etc. So that's AI in basic forms. A subset of that is what we call machine learning, which is more based on statistical models, based on mathematical models that is a little bit more complex, if you will. So the personalizations of today, when you go to Amazon Prime and you get those recommendations, even the interface change based on who you are is machine learning. So it's data that is becoming a little bit more smart based on models that personalize your interactions and make recommendations to you. A little bit more complex is what is deep learning, and now we are in the 21st century. So deep learning became really a thing a few years ago, less than, 15 years ago, when we start with the pictures and recognizing cats and getting all the image recognition and the voice recognition with Siri, with Alexa. So now it's not the query, it's what deep learning does is recognizing your accent. That you mispronounce something and, I think he means this. Or you ask in Spanish or something and the answer, comes in English because that's your profile and that's what, there is even a bilingual interaction today in Alexa. So all that is deep learning. So it's learning about you, it's synchronizing the models, and it's giving you more powerful data. What is generative AI? So in the deep learning, all those calculations, the models, let me go back to Alexa. If I ask Alexa, how's the weather today? That's it, that's the question. So, okay, you mean in Palo Alto, and Mountain, because you are there, and that's the answer. So I'm not gonna give you the one in Miami that I always give you. Now I'm gonna give you this because it's situational to where you are. And that is deep learning. It's giving you a little bit more complexity based on the questions that you're asking. Generative AI changed the paradigm, but it's a type of deep learning that doesn't have the labelings of the data created, but it's pre-trained with data, and it's going to create the labels and the interactions for you. So what is happening with this approach? And so it is different. I think I changed one of the slides, but it is different in what it makes. But situational is a type of deep learning that is going to create content for you. Okay, and we'll go a little bit deeper on that. But it's a type. And the first thing is, it's a type of machine learning, and it's a type of deep learning. Okay, it's not something that out of the blue, something different. It's a type of deep learning processing. In Amazon, we say that machine learning and AI has been in our DNA from the beginning, as I said, from the first examples. But today, we process 4,000 products per minute in Amazon. In every of those processing, the pictures, the relationship, what you want, how I deliver it to you, is using machine learning and AI. In the fulfillment centers, we have what we call vision analytics, vision AI, to, for example, change the routes of the products. The packages, I don't know if you have noticed over time, but you are not receiving those big boxes as usual. Now you have envelopes, depending of the products, right? Have you experienced that? So that packaging, that is a lot of saving, is more, we are saving space in the trucks, we are saving energy. It is because of machine learning that is recognizing the products and is recommending what packaging, what envelope would be better. Now, it's not only the size, it's the material. So when we have, for example, a glass, it's not going to come in an envelope because it's going to be broken. So all that recognition, visual recognition, that also you can see in Formula One, everything that we do today in the Formula One, in the NFL, is based on the same type of technology with vision machine learning. Alexa, as I was saying, billions of interactions every week, and that is improving. And finally, I don't want to use that one, but the Amazon Go stores. Have you seen Amazon Go stores in the airports? Is evolving. Now in an Amazon Go store, you can use your hand, which is Amazon One. So you synchronize your app with your hand, and you can enter at a store, use your hand, and just walk out. The technology is called just walk out. What is just walk out? You get the product, and you leave. So how does it work? There is visual recognition in the store that is going to associate you when you enter with the products that you are buying, and then put it in your account. So experience that if you can, look for Amazon Go or just walk out technology. That is deep learning, machine learning use cases, okay? In action. So more than 100,000 customers are using already machine learning today. But let's talk about Gen AI, because it's a revolution too. So it's a little bit different. So what happened with Gen AI? It shifts a little bit just looking for content and personalized content that is there. It's also creating content. It's creating content for you based on the pre-trained data in the models that is available for the interaction. But what can you do with that? You can create new conversations. Could be dynamic. You can create a poem, which is basic concept. You can create your resume, right, from scratch, and use your more recent data that is in LinkedIn, and then you create the resume for you. But you can create music, okay? And you can tell, I like classic music. Can you create a new symphony for me based on, my preferences? That can be done. A new movie, can you create the version, 20 of Harry Potter? Can do it. It can be done. Now, it's going to be interacting. The first versions maybe failed. This is not what I wanted. Can you change this? Can you change this? And that interaction is going to generate new code. So the power of that behind why we can do that today, why is being revolutionary today? Because of the amount of compute that this requires is becoming less expensive, it's cheaper. And also the amount of data, the storage that requires this for the pre-trained models is available today. Years ago, was not available. But what are some industry use cases other than a chat, right, which is one app, great, but today we may be, I will say, inclined to think that generative AI is just a chatbot that is answering your questions. That is one use case. Very interesting. But you can apply that internally in your company, for example, for contact centers, for consultants. Like, okay, I need to give this deliverable to a customer. Us consultants, imagine, make this deliverable, quickly, and you have it in minutes, and then you give it to the customer. You can do that. So it will help your productivity. But in the terms of communications, can be a better Alexa, a better chatbot, better searches. Seems like, I'm here in Palo Alto, for example, and in Mountain View, this today, Friday. I'm going to stay over the weekend. One use case for travel and hospitality could be, tell me what to do over the weekend. And I will receive recommendations. Well, today is Friday, you can do this. It's sunny, you can do this or thing. And it will recommend me, will create a recommendation for me personalized for the weekend. But apply that in healthcare, for example. You know, if you know your profile, your history, now you can ask personalized questions that will be, you know, very specific for you for a better health. Or imagine your own MRI, and then they can be amplified and improved to detect a sickness, you know, cancer ahead of time. Because it can extend that picture, correlate it to you, your history, and say, hey, it looks like it is not there yet, but you may have cancer in 2-3 years if you don't do anything. That is a healthcare usage. It's creating something, because the image is not there. It's creating a new image, but based on the data that is available of you and others that have the same situation. So media, I said the same, movies, music, so it's going to be created. I mean, can you imagine, already we have those cases about a commercial. So you can create a new commercial, you know, for a new campaign, pretty easy. So remember the PRFAQs that we have in Amazon? So you can create a visual of the PRFAQ with generative AI. So it will be an automatic visual. Let me go with consumer goods, which is, you know, a core in Amazon. So optimizing the logistics, optimizing the pricing, those are use cases that are going to be real impactful for the market. So in dynamic pricing, for example, in hospitality and airlines, like have you noticed that you can have different price of the internet depending of the flight, right? Doesn't cost the same, depending of the airlines, but I'm just giving you an airline use case. The demand that can have in that flight can change the internet price. So a use case of this is evaluating how is the pipeline of the travel for the next 2-3 months and create a specific pricing of internet for the airline and for that route that is going to be convenient for both. So that's another use case. Simplifying, so I was talking about the industry, but simplifying today did change by the hour, which is something to consider. This is a new area, it's changing, it's evolving. But the main use cases that we have today, independent of the industries, is that content can be created, and it's going to be original content. Well, there are some ethical parts that I'm not going to be touching, but that are there. Is this original content, or you were using content that was available and changing a little bit? A book, imagine a book and you change some words and now you have a new book, right? But can create content. So those content can be, as I said, music, books, but could be your documentation of a new product. You are going to launch a product and now you have the documentation available. Can generate code. So that's something that we care as builders in Amazon. Imagine the possibility of generating new code. Code for IoT devices, code for, you know, integration of Alexa with another machine. Machine-to-machine code is something that is going to be generated pretty quickly. So what is machine-to-machine code? Your Alexa device talking to your car, and you are not doing anything. You are just asking, can you connect this device to this old device? And the code is going to be generated. It is going to be generated. So the other one is a customer service that can be expedited with personalized chat boxes, personalized interactions. And the last one, which is summarizing, for example, a meeting, summarizing a contract. Give me the 3 most important points of this session today. So that can be summarizing. We'll give you a summary. So those are use cases that we see today and that they are real. Going to be calling the panel in a few minutes and have a panel conversation, but this is something maybe controversial, food for thought. How many of you remember Netscape in the 90s, right? So we have a tech population here, that's good. So Netscape, I mean, internet was before Netscape doing a lot of things, connecting universities, governments, right? So Netscape didn't create internet. Do we agree? But Netscape came to the market and really revolutionized and gave access to users, especially because Netscape was so powerful that the same code could run in Unix and Linux and Mac, and portability of the code. The interface was super great. Amazon.com got a lot of benefits from Netscape, right? But I remember that people was confused, thinking that the business was browsers. And many technology companies were competing with a new browser because the perception was that the internet was a browser. The internet was the interaction with the customer. So that's what I try to represent here, which is the top of the iceberg. But just like the internet was not the browser, but it was all the, everything that was happening behind, integrations, microservices, data, a lot of business models. Same is going to happen with generative AI with some applications. So my point is generative AI, is not an app. It's not a chat. That's the top of the iceberg that is interacting with you. It's creating a lot of momentum. Yeah, CEOs, boards are saying, wow, what is my strategy of generative AI? But that's the top of the iceberg, okay? This is going to be changing, and the more you start with the backbone below about machine learning models, about data that is secure, that it is available, etc., the better. Gonna go quickly with this, but this is the offering that Amazon is having today. We can talk more after, but it's Amazon Bedrock, which is a platform for generative AI models, open source and our own. Infrastructure for generative AI and machine learning, very important. So this is going to be a new area also. Just like the top of the iceberg, below you need machines and hardware that is faster and that is developed for machine learning. And the coding part, as was saying, Code Whisperer is the platform to generate code automatically in Amazon. So final one here, what you look is flexibility in generative AI. Which models do you use? Today, with public models like, what is the model of the university? Vicuña. It's a public model of LLM's model, public, Vicuña. You can generate an equivalent of a ChatGPT application in 30 minutes, your own, using public models. So the flexibility in your strategy for generative AI has to be considered. Security of your data, be careful with publishing and give it away your IP, has to be secure in your own platforms. Need to consider the cost effectiveness of the infrastructure. In our case, the possibility to change the models. So because they are open source, so you can change the models and create your own models. Okay, so that is important in the. And finally, creating solutions. Not only so how you create Legos, how you interact components that are flexible and they are integrated between. So going to the microservices approach, generative AI is going to be evolving that way. So you will have Chatway, an industry-specific solution, and they will be integrated between each other. So let me just jump this summary. Gen AI is much more than that. And the 4 pillars in innovation that we have in Amazon: culture, architecture, mechanisms, and people. how we organize the people. All right? So that's it, my part. Thank you. All right? If you want to provide me feedback, we love that. Well, I think it went away, but so I'm thinking about questions after the panel, if that is okay, that we have the panel and then we have questions. We're gonna have time. So, perfect. So let's have the panel. Let me invite Carlos Ordóñez from AWS, leader of startups for Latin America. Natalie Hill, who is an angel investor and also tech advisor of AWS. And Francisco, you're here already? No. Sorry. Perfect. Francisco Cornejo, CEO of Storybooks, one of our customers in the portfolio of Angeles. So, let's receive them with a round of applause. Natalie, Francisco, perfect. All right.
Hola.
So we're gonna have the panel. I have questions here for the panel, and then Q&A. Is that okay? Perfect. So let's start with intros. We can follow the order. So. No, let's use that one.
There you go.
There you go.
Sorry for that. So, Natalie Hill here. Super happy to be here in this venue with Angeles Investors. As JC said, I'm a tech advisor at AWS. And been working in several industries around technology and always focused to drive a technology adoption. So this is one of the things we've been seeing in the past months, years, but there's a lot of things that are been going on for years. So we have an approach to really take the best advantage of this. So this is about me.
Super.
Hello, everyone. So happy to be here in person. I'm the co-founder of Storybook. Most of you should know about Storybook by now, but just in case, I asked ChatGPT what is a storybook at the most essential, at the core of things, and I asked it again and again until it gave me an answer that I want to share with you. But we are in the business of getting parents to bond with their kids. That's the most essential element of what we do. And I'll be discussing a little bit more about our plans in terms of AI. But yeah, really, really happy to be here.
Super.
Yeah, so thank you first for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here in this fantastic venue. So I was sharing with the rest of the panel this morning that this is one of my favorite places in the world. So thank you for this. So my name is Carlos. I have been in Amazon for more than 6 years. Right, I just started the retail, something we call the Amazon Development Center in Mexico. So I was part of the shipment consolidation components and some of what JC was describing around how we use AI in the retail business. Then I moved to Alexa. So I was part of the team, the founding team that created the language model for Spanish for Alexa. So part of this difficult pronunciation of Cempasúchitl or those kind of difficult ways of pronouncing it. And then I moved to the a startup team. So 3 years back, we identified being customer obsessed. We wrote a PR and FAQ and a narrative to create a team especially focused on startups. So I manage the technical leg or the technical dimension of that, enabling our startups and our customers to be successful in the cloud. So thank you again for the invitation.
Super, super, excellent. Well, let's start with how is AI, and I'm probably going to start with Francisco. How is AI and generative AI impacting your business, your decisions today?
And that's a question for everyone, really. I don't know if out of here, who is already using something like ChatGPT on a weekly basis? On a daily basis? It's impacting everyone. And of course, it's impacting startups. Right now, our team is using tools like ChatGPT on a daily basis as a co-pilot. The development team to improve their code and to find improvements, but everyone really to write an email, to write a copy, to come up with ideas. The core of what we do is creating content. So we create stories for children one of the uses JC was mentioning, we design artwork for those stories, and we use human voice for now for those stories. So the impact that this has in our business is tremendous. So right now, again, we have to be really careful because we're dealing with kids, with emotional health. So there's a lot of, we have to have rail guards when we use this technology. But for us, for now, in the core of what we do, it's helping us to overcome the cold start problem, the creative cold start problem. So when we come up with an idea for a new story, because our customers tell us we have this specific need, like, for example, jealousy. When the second child is born, the first child often goes through a lapse of jealousy. So how can we help parents address this through a story? And instead of coming up with the story from the ground, we can ask ChatGPT, hey, come up with some ideas. And based on those ideas, we take our writers to craft the story, but they are not starting from zero. So it typically took us like a day to create a new story from scratch. Now in a couple of hours, we have exactly the same quality of story in a matter of 2 hours, starting from something, but then crafting with humans, and then having our experts reviewing, or psychologists reviewing the final draft. So that's the clear route, but as we go, there's going to be more interesting things with generative AI for our product.
Super big impact, rethinking models, a lot of usage. So that's great. Natalie, how do you see AI?
I'll see a couple of things. So I'm going to talk more about the enterprise, which is a lot of our customers right now, big companies. So I interact with the executives, not only technology, but also line of businesses and so. And they are very aware of what's going on right now. JC mentioned this is, AI they're being in the works for years already in academia, for instance. But then the mainstream adoption, probably we are on the second mainstream adoption because right now everybody's aware. But first mainstream adoption actually started when you started with your account and you get the suggestions. It was like 20 years ago, right? Yes, I don't know. So this is the type of thing that right now that everybody's aware, they request more things. Like you got awareness about that, and then you're using that every day because it's in the reach of your fingertips. So right now we have the responsibility to do two things: to guide our customers, especially on the enterprise side, to be able to incubate these type of initiatives, be able to cause impact. We found a couple of good examples around that. One is around recommendations, to have finer, lot of context recommendations with a better context. And the other one is natural language processing, which is better chatbots, better interaction with voice or chat. So those are the two things that we are being across all industries right now that are mainstream. Let me add one more thing, because I've been doing things on Web3 for a long time. Web3 meaning blockchain, crypto, and so, like, from my past life. But I don't know if you've seen a lot of the NFTs that were generated a couple of years ago. A lot of people learned to use generative AI for those images because they wanted to get into the NFT business. So they started using, there weren't a lot of interfaces 2 or 3 years ago, right? But they said, okay, this is so exciting that I'm gonna learn how to use it. So artists learn how to use it, and then have these beautiful collections. Well, there's another topic around NFTs, but so they released that. That was a motivation, so they got in. So I think that's a key point we need to keep in mind, because if there's motivation, I mean, now it's easier to start using models and so. But there was a motivation already, so.
Super. Thank you, Natalie. So let me ask you, Carlos, how can startups take advantage of generative AI?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. So we have seen, being customer obsessed, and as you mentioned during your presentation, JC, at Amazon, we are obsessed with the customer satisfaction, right? So that means we have almost a disorder, right, to focus on how to fulfill customer delight, customer expectations. So what we have seen from the customer's perspective is that we fall into 3 different buckets. The first one are the ones that are creating their own language models, their own large learning models, right? So similarly to what we have seen, creating their own research, that requires a lot of compute, a lot of flexibility, what you just mentioned at the beginning. Then the second bucket is one that are customizing the existing models that are there, or the system foundations that are there. So more or less, it's like on the top of what is existing in the market, how they can create based on the analytics and based on the data that they have, proprietary information on the top of the existing models, and create other or generate other types of predictions, other types of personalization. We're seeing a big trend on hyper-personalization that is happening there, not only on the content, but also on the way how you're interacting with the user interfaces. So that is also part of what we have seen. And the final one, the third bucket is the one that are using it, that are consuming it. So there are a lot of advantages there and challenges there in terms of how we are training and enabling the industries, the entire industry, around how to use it properly. Like, for example, what about the regulation, compliance? There is a big challenge on that one, the intellectual property that you mentioned. So I'm seeing a lot of opportunities regarding how to create the proper communication mechanisms and the proper availability and connections to this type of model. So that is also part of what we have seen. So those are like the three main buckets that we have seen from our customers.
Super. And you see that all over, not globally, not LATAM, global, same behavior?
Literally, yes. So I am just literally getting down the plane from Web Summit Brazil a couple of weeks back. Then it was Starco in Colombia, also in Mexico. So I manage the entire LATAM team, but that is a global trend. So we're seeing this trend across every corner in the world.
Super, super. So let's go with some use cases first. So you kind of mentioned what is happening today, but do you see any disruptive use case in your customers, your segments that you would like to share? Maybe Natalie.
Should I start? Okay. Yes. So right now there's two things, because the thing that you were talking about, that example, right? Like how I interact with IVRs, like we're in the, they are accepting right now, not only IVRs, but also chat. Like I put a typo the other day on one of these chats we were testing. It wasn't on purpose, but because I just typed like quickly, right? So, but it gave me the response. So I think one thing of using that is that probably people there don't speak the same accent, the same language, but right now it's easier. If you wanted to train an IVR or one of these chatbots, years ago, you didn't need to have a lot of context on that particular language. So I was talking the other day, I speak Peruvian, right? So, so type of Spanish. Years ago, when I was trying to talk to an IVR here in Spanish, probably wouldn't get a lot of good answers, but so I switched to English. So a lot of the customers, they're aware of, I want to have, not because they want to eliminate the people talking to other people from their side, but they want to have better processes. They want to be more efficient. They want to be able to get better solutions for their customers. So this is a way to, right now probably it's going to be hybrid, but they, all the interaction on natural language processing, this is the top of mind right now. And then on the back, you were mentioning about the models, right? There's text models, as the one that you mentioned about the camelids. I don't know why they have all these names, like llama, alpaca, vicuña. They just get creative. And then and our models from some companies that we have on top of the Amazon capability. So that's important because this one is top of mind. This is like the most visible one. So we try to shift the conversation also to other capabilities, like they can start building, they can start having efficiencies, gaining grounds in terms of new businesses and so on. Those are the ones around personalization. Those are the two things. If you ask me who's first, probably digital native companies. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that they have a little bit more flexibility. So those are the ones that are moving forward. But then you have companies that have, years in the make, all the way from retail to financial services. And they were thinking about that, and they said, okay, right now, probably I don't have all the agility to do that, but I'm going to start using that because we already are training models, so we know we have the capabilities to do that.
No, that's a great point that you said, your legacy, your history versus being a digital native, and how fast you can adopt new models being a digital native company, or it could be, a mentality, as we were talking about the innovation culture. But, Storybook is a digital native company. So basically you don't have the, history. You started from scratch, digitally, AWS, great, right? So What other use cases do you see, Francisco? So, is this making you to rethink your model, your different use cases? How's your imagination working right now?
Yeah, well, one of the first things that will happen, and it's happening, and you pointed to this, Natalie, is that customers will expect something different. They will start to have different expectations. So from customer service to the capacity to customize things. So they will want to have their own stories with their own name, crafted for their specific case. That's something that it's going to happen. It's happening already across industries. And we have to be prepared for that. Now, specifically for our use case, and this is interesting because Storybook is trying to get back to the root of human interaction, which is even physical interaction, being present with your kid, rubbing your kid's back, like with physical affection. And we don't want technology to disrupt that. We want to use technology to enable that, but not to disrupt that. So if in Storybook we make it too entertaining, too customizable, kids can get too excited about that and forget the fact that the main thing is to share with their parents. So for us, we have to find that middle ground around, yes, we want to have these possibilities. We want you to have a fantastic moment with your kid by crafting your own story and by publishing their story and getting excited about that. But we don't want this to become a distraction or more screen time. So what's our concern for the future is that more interaction with machines will lead to less interaction with humans, which will lead to more emotional health problems. And that's exactly what we are trying to fight. So yeah, we are using the best that we are seeing in terms of AI, and we have plans with AI and generative AI. But at the same token, we have to be strict with our core and what we do.
That's great. So
May I add something?
Yeah,
Because that's
that's
super important. Companies are also not super fast, but they are aware of the responsibility of adopting like you, right? So that's amazing because right now that's top of mind too. So it's
Yeah,
good that,
yeah. So, and as you're saying, generative AI is an enabler, it's a productive tool, but it's not a replacement of humans. And it's not and in your case in particular, the core is that interaction between the mom, the parents, and the kid. And so super, super mindful. So thank you, Francisco, for that. So we could be talking here a long time. I have more questions, but I want to shift now to questions from the audience. And let's see who has questions. Oh no, Cynthia, you have some questions pending too. Who goes first?
Great. Oh, sorry. Great panel. The question I have for you is around IP and privacy. You talked a little bit about it, but if you're a large company, this idea of simplifying your data or even creating a chatbot at the simplest level requires releasing some information that has been hidden for years behind those four walls. How do you think about that? I know you mentioned AWS has maybe some versions of protecting that, but that seems to be one of the limitations here is the fear of the data getting out or in the wrong hands.
So yeah, I can probably start with that, and I don't know, Carlos and Natalie or Francisco complement me. But in our case, in the way we are seeing this shift, is basically making sure that you keep your data. Your data is on your infrastructure. And in the way AWS proposed that, we have virtual private clouds, or VPCs, that are your data in the cloud, but you have the access. So on top of that is where you can build all these solutions, generative AI. You can have, as today, we have solutions like a Comprehend, for example. Comprehend is a service that AWS has to summarize a contract, a document, whatever. That's available today, and it's a serverless service. So you call it APIs, and the document goes back to you, but the data is in your VPC, so it didn't go out. So what we are internally in AWS also experiencing as employees, we have to be careful how we use generative AI solutions that require the data to go out of the company. Also our customers' data, and contract information. So that's evolving. Our recommendation is how to take advantage of Gen AI in your businesses is making sure that is secure and is under your control. So that will be the point of view.
What I would like to add also is that based on the presentation that we said at the beginning, there is no compression algorithm for experience, right? So that means we have a set of good practices in AWS called the well-architected principle. So, and there is one pillar there called security pillar. So specifically in that one, we say that we need to have our data encrypted in a rest and while it's traveling. So it's very important that when you are consuming this type of open whatever you are consuming, you are ensuring that you are not exposing that. How? Then having it in your own private and secure environments that allows you to run those loads or those foundation models. So that's why it's important to understand when you are, I just remember that I was talking to one of our startups there, one of our customers that were using a generative AI, OpenAI approach to generate like surveys or HTML code and so many other stuff outside their military asset zone, right? So that's very important that you're following those practices that allows you to have your own training models, your own infrastructure, part of their virtual and available there in AWS, so that allows you to follow this set of principles, and that won't expose your intellectual property outside what you want to control, right? What's on your domains. That's the way how we describe it.
And that's the type of question we get a lot from the customers. And there's a process also named label the data. So you define what part of the data you're going to use to train your model internally. So that's also a way to separate the data. Like, of course, PII, personal identifiable information, is out of the question, that is not there, but you define what data you want to use to train. But it's not like, okay, I just want to tag this data not to be used, because you need to give context. So that's part of the magic there, to prepare the data properly, to train the model, and then to get the outcome that you want to get. So.
Super. Cynthia.
It's actually kind of interesting. Oh, this is loud. It's kind of interesting because I was also going to ask a question on privacy, but I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach. First question is to JC. The second one would probably be for the rest of the team. I was really interested in the product about, walking into, the Amazon store, and that you use facial recognition as a, biometric identifier. In terms of uses of biometric identifier, obviously it's been somewhat, in terms of controversial. Very interested in knowing what other ways Amazon is using any sort of biometric identifier, and also in terms of how the consumer's protected. What sort of measures is your trust and safety team taking in order to mitigate any sort of PII risk, which I would appreciate. And then to dovetail a bit on what the rest of the panel was talking about in general with artificial intelligence use, I know that there's been a lot of conversation around the ethics behind AI. So obviously there's certain perceived biases on the front end of the technology engineering. What is sort of the mechanism? I mean, it could be maybe a Carlos question. I know you seem like super expert on this, but what sort of mechanisms are you internally using to address those biases on the front end? And I think that's pretty much it, but
Super.
Thank you.
Oh, two great questions. Thank you, Cynthia. So on the first one, the Amazon Just Walkout technology that is available for retailers and companies, as I invited you to see in the airports, but there are Starbucks is using that, and of course Whole Foods is using that today. But to your question, the data doesn't go out of the infrastructure, so the video recognition works for the products. So when you get a product and you get something that is matching that to you, that you bought it, and it's going to go assigned to your account. So when you walk out, it goes to your payment method. But that's it. Once you walk out, everything is erased from the visual and video recognition. So is that experience. It will go to your regular Amazon experience with the product, but not the visual part. That gets erased after you walk out from the place. So, and inside is always kept secure and encrypted, as Carlos was saying.
Yeah.
Want to go to the second question?
Okay. So on the second question, it's very interesting to see this. I use this example with my kids back at home. So if you use, for example, image recognition, right, and you train the model with only cows, like the ones that you use to get the milk, right? Sorry for the pronunciation, right? So the cows there in the middle of the street, right? And you set a set of images that are only using that. And then you send the cow reel there in the farm, and you ask this identifier or recognition if what is being sent is a cow. Based on the training models that you had, it will say no. Right? So it's very important that you are using the proper information and the proper models to train that. So if you are creating or you are training with biased models, then obviously that will happen. It will be biased. So if this training material, these models are creating those biases because of the inputs that you're adding there, and not necessarily because of how the model is created by itself. It's only creating the inference and creating the extrapolation or the curve about how that is going. It's very important.
May I add something? So what is happening today with the generative AI that is a little bit different is that if you see a mistake, if you see a bias, you can retrain the model.
Exactly.
In the past, you have to provide more data. That's why some of the early biases issues with face recognition were failing, because there were, bias with races. Because the data, in order to prove that, we had to provide more data models. Today, we can retrain and say, no, this is, add to the model this other one, and it will be faster to be retrained. So that's what is interesting for generative AI, is the retraining becomes faster. Going to the IP question, the key here is that you retrain it with your own data, with your own IP, in a secure environment, that you own it, that doesn't go out. Because if not, you're going to provide your own IP to the market. Right? Make sense?
Yep.
Any other question? One more question?
You wanted to add something, Francisco?
Nope. All right. Well, we're going to be available, panel, for any one-on-one questions, but it has been a pleasure to be here. Thank you, the panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.